You are listening to the voice of the frontline protector here at the Private Officer Beat Radio. Every week you'll hear breaking news, topics of training, information for the industry of security, public safety, and law enforcement. So strap in, hang on, we're about to speed off in this episode of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio, and I'm your host, Rick McCann. This radio show is sponsored by Private Officer International, a private security and law enforcement organization with members in many, many countries. And it's also being sponsored by several very fine companies, Body Armor USA and Premier Training Academy and Star Medical Academy. We'll get back with you on those fine companies during our breaks, but if you would like to sponsor the radio show, you can also contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Helpdesk at privateofficer.com. We do offer an all-inclusive, one-price marketing plan. It includes ads on all of our websites, ads on all of our material, an introduction letter sent to all of our members, radio show spot ads, and a whole lot more. You're also going to be on all of our social media. We have tens of thousands of visitors every single day. Again, contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com if you'd like to learn more about this very inexpensive way to reach your target market. Blue Ram Media Group is producing the show for us, a brand new company that soon will be debuting its brand new online platform, which includes radio shows, a new frontline magazine for the public safety industry, and a number of, I think, quality programming, streaming live 24 hours a day. And you're going to be able to see it and watch it from wherever you're at. We are currently producing a number of shows, including Missing in Uniform, Death Behind the Badge, Breaking Bread, Protecting Paradise, and we're working on several other projects. If you'd like to get involved in anything happening with POI or even with Blue Ram Media, contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Well, again, this week, folks, we have a lot of news, a lot of breaking news, a lot of violence against the private security officers out there trying to do their job. We have some major headlines that we're going to talk about in this program. We want to remind you once again that there's opportunities for everyone if you're interested in becoming part of the virtual museum team. Basically, it's a couple of hours a month. We're not asking very much of you at all. We're going to be kicking off this project soon. If you would like to help to curate different items and stories and video for the virtual museum, we'd love to have you. We also have a number of openings on our committees. That includes the Officer Down Memorial Benevolent Committee, and also we have an opening now on the Awards Committee. If you would like to participate in any of these, you know how to get a hold of us, helpdesk at privateofficer.com. A lot of great opportunities, a lot of things happening, as we say, each and every week. I was telling a friend of mine over the weekend a very interesting fire call that we had. This is probably one for the books, one for the records in my career. I've been involved in the fire and EMS service since 1977, and this past weekend we had a call for shots fired. Police were out with a barricaded subject. According to neighbors, they heard a gunshot and then a second gunshot. Police was called. They at first could not locate the house, but they finally did pinpoint where those gunshots were coming from. They surrounded the house, called for backup. SWAT teams were dispatched. The fire and EMS departments were dispatched. Police from several surrounding agencies also responding to the neighborhood, cordoned off a number of blocks. Several more shots eventually were fired, but police didn't really know if they were being fired at them. They assumed that they were, but they didn't really know. More than 4 hours into the standoff, the whole area cordoned off, people living in the neighborhood not able to go home. SWAT finally makes entry into the home. And there on the floor, they find a handicapped man who had fallen from his wheelchair, and he had no other methods of notifying someone that he needed help. He had already laid on the ground for 24 plus hours. He had no access to a phone. I'm assuming that's because he did not have one, but he did have a gun nearby for protection. So after 24 hours of laying on the ground, and you can only imagine what he went through, not able to get up, not able to help himself, not able to use the bathroom, he decided, as a last resort, I'm going to get my firearm and fire off a couple of rounds, hoping that the neighbors hear the gunshots and call the police. Well, the neighbors did hear the gunshots, and they did call police, but when police arrived, they heard some more gunshots, and it sounded like someone was taking aim at them. So rather than go storming into the homes in the neighborhood to find out what's going on, they surrounded the location, called in SWAT and additional officers, and it wasn't for more than 4 plus hours later that they determined this was not an act where somebody was trying to shoot them or harm them. This was a man in desperation for medical care. And this was a very unusual situation. The man was loaded up into the ambulance, transported to a medical center, and the scene was cleared. And this just really didn't play out very well in the media, because here this man was, an older man who had no cell phone, who had no one knocking at the door checking up on him. No neighbors came to see if he was all right. No family who had called in at least the last 24 hours or stopped by, because had they, he probably would not be in the situation that he was in. So on Sunday morning after this incident, I decided, well, the least I could probably do is to step in and help this man with some communication, emergency communication access, and also to connect them with Meals on Wheels, which is a 7-day-a-week program. They will at least visit and communicate with him regularly to make sure that he's doing fine, make sure he's fed, and of course, also connect him with any community medical services that might be available to him. So we're working on that today, and hopefully by the end of the day, everything will all be arranged, and this man will not have to fire a gun again should he find himself in similar situations. Like I said, it's a very unusual call. I've been to many, many unusual calls, but this is one for the books. It's at the top of the list, and it's sad. We had a few laughs afterwards. The cops thought they were being shot. They called out SWAT. But it was really sad when you stop to think about the situation. I tell you this story because after the situation played out and we were back from the call and Sunday morning rolled around, I began thinking, not only what could I do for this person in this situation, but what could we do for others in our own community? As private security officers who often patrol healthcare facilities, apartments and condominiums, elderly, subdivisions or low-income locations, we can make a difference. I've spoken about this numerous times on the radio show and in person. And as a reminder, I would just like to remind you to be sure that you not only are aware of your surroundings, but you know your neighbors and you know where you're working in an apartment complex, who's elderly, who's handicapped, who haven't you seen in the last 3 or 4 days or week. And really, you can make a difference by being attentive, alert, and even putting a little bit of yourself into keeping people not only safe, but going that extra step to make sure that they don't need anything, that they do have family coming by to check on them, that they are connected to healthcare services and Meals on Wheels and other community services that are available. We're going to take a quick break. When I come back, I have a lot of news to share with you, a lot of violence, unfortunately, in the security industry, and we'll be talking about some upcoming events we're very excited about. Remember, Body Armor USA. You knew I was going to say this. Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. And that doesn't matter if you're looking for top-line vest, or you're looking for protective clothing, or you're looking for anything, really. We have everything that you could possibly need to keep you safe, whether you're a correction officer or law enforcement, or if you are a private security officer. 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Check them out online, bodyarmorusa.com, because we've got what it takes to protect you.
Can we be real for a minute? I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm a firefighter.
Man, we're going to have you out in just a minute, okay? I'm a designer.
I'm a retired VP in business.
And I'm a student.
I'm a mother.
I'm a business analyst, and I'm a volunteer firefighter.
You thought we just fought fire?
Firefighters get trained to do so many things.
Right here. Be sharp.
What we do is serious business.
Three-quarters of the nation's first responders are volunteers. That includes here in Connecticut. And lately, it's been harder than ever, with fewer citizens volunteering.
From teenage cadets like me
To seasoned veterans like me.
So what are you waiting for?
You ready to make a difference? Ready to join our team?
Your community needs you. We need you. Visit everydayheroct.org or stop by your local firehouse today and take the first step of joining your fire department.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say so that they are safe. We see say for each other.
I see safe because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Into so many things happening in the private security field this past week alone. I don't even know where to begin. We're still wrapping our head around all of the shootings and homicides involving the security industry this past 7 days, and the substantial increase in violence. Again, just now looking at all the statistics from the past 7 days, and it's very difficult for us to really keep track of because there's so much of it happening. And all that I can say really is that there really is no end in sight.
And I think one of the factors for us here at Private Officer International is the lack of concern that there continues to be, both from the industry, the employers, the large companies, the small companies, and everyone in between. It was unusual this past week. I did have contact with several media organizations and a professor from a university looking into the security, the violence involving private security. And I have to tell you, that was refreshing to see other folks now looking at the security industry and questioning what's going on. One researcher, professor, was very interested in our statistical data that we've collected over the many years that POI has now been in business, 18 plus years. Won't be long before we hit that 20-year, big 20-year celebration. But we have astounding amounts of data, information as it relates to the security industry, both good and bad, and specifically even more so when it comes to the injuries, the workplace violence, the assaults, the deaths of security and private police, including loss prevention and mall security. One of my other contacts this past week from the media specifically wanted to know about retail security and loss prevention, mall security. How in the world is the security industry training and preparing for this continuing retail violence? And I had to tell her, the reporter, frankly, they're not. Very little actual hands-on, scenario-based live training is done across the board in the security profession. And it was a shock to her that, especially now, in the last 2.5 to 3 years, with the increase in retail violence, the takeover robberies, the injuries of store employees and mall security alike, that no one has taken an interest in stepping up the training for both the store employees and the security team. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of it. I know behind the scenes that some loss prevention departments have done some training. I know that several companies behind the scenes, and not with the media present, has also put together a little bit of increased policy procedure and how to handle these violent takeover type thefts, gangs, so forth, but there's just not enough of it. Boy, this is a tough time to be in the security field. And as we continue to send out the news alerts and post all of the various stories on our social media, of course, the same type of comments continue to just really fill the comment section from people who say what I classify as ignorant comments, like, you get what you pay for. What do you expect when you hire McDonald's workers? And so on and so forth. Instead of people being concerned about the violence, about what's really happening in this security profession that they voluntarily choose to work in, by the way. Nobody's holding a gun to their head. And yet there's just a lack of concern. It's beyond disappointing and frustrating. And my staff and I have continuously analyzed and assessed whether or not it's even worth trying to be the voice of the security industry. Not even, very seldom do we get anyone praising or thanking us, which of course we're not here for that, but as we spend more and more time and invest more and more of our resources and ourselves in all of this stuff that's happening, and you know, the other side that many people don't see or hear about is the people that we help, the people who contact us for advice, the people who contact us for financial support, that they've been injured and don't have workers' comp, or also, you know, Crime Stoppers, lending a hand financially with trying to get information on who injured or killed a security officer. So there's so many different areas that we're involved in with our organization that people just don't take into consideration. But it, like I said, it gets to be a little frustrating when you have commentators on social media who, instead of, you know, having empathy or sympathy for those injured or for the families and the loved ones of the security officer that's been murdered, they don't. And I have a lot of things to say about that, but we're not going to do that in this forum today anyways. But I'm probably going to in the soon and upcoming weeks, because it's gotten to a point where enough is enough and something has to be done. When we come back from our first break, we're going to be talking about some of those violent incidents over the last 7 days, including numerous security officers who were murdered, injured. I believe the total count of security officer deaths right now as it stands is 35. I believe 19 were murders. I'm going to have to double check that during this first break. So when I come back, I'll have that. Remember, you can join the conversation by going to facebook.com/Private Officer International. You can also join us on twitter.com/Private Officer, and check out our daily news blog every single day at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. You can also contact us 24/7, 365 at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I'd love for you to chime in and tell us what you think about this whole evolving security industry. And let's not just talk about money. Yes, money plays a big part of it, but, you know, there's so many professions that are having a similar financial debate about how much their employees are worth. And as we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, employee hourly rate and salaries have increased as it's becoming more and more difficult to attract workers because so many have quit. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have quit. I want to know, how are they paying their bills now that the government isn't paying rent, child support, daycare support, food stamps to the level that they were just a year ago? How are they paying their bills? Obviously, other industries, retail, fast food, general service, and others have found a way to continue keeping their doors open and staying in business. So there's definitely some answers out there. How can we change really everything about the security field? How can we increase the training, the salary, the benefits, the safety aspect of the job? We definitely want to hear from you. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Remember, Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. Doesn't matter if you're looking for stab-resistant vests, protective clothing, cut-resistant gloves. If you're in corrections, law enforcement, or security, Body Armor USA. Been around and around for a long time. We've got quality protection and gear. Check them out online today, Body Armor USA.
I don't want to go blind from diabetes.
I don't want to lose a foot or a leg.
I don't want to have kidney failure, so I'm taking control.
I'm controlling my diabetes.
It's making a huge difference.
I'm eating healthy and staying physically active.
I'm taking my medicine.
If I can do it, anyone can.
Control your diabetes for life. Call 1-800-438-5383.
Yep, no pigtails anymore.
Check, please.
David, you okay to drive?
Yeah, I only had a couple drinks. I'm fine.
Come on.
Keys can be a weapon. A few drinks can make you a killer.
35 confirmed security officer deaths in 55 days. Of those, 19 confirmed murders, on-duty murders, and more than 107 injuries in 55 days. Still, security personnel and employers don't take workplace safety very seriously. Most don't support additional training, equipment, body armor, or even having some form of two-way radio communications. In a survey of security personnel last year, we found that many would prefer two-man minimum coverage in many different contracts, many different environments, and I believe that would definitely help reduce the number of injuries and confirmed deaths. However, that's just not going to play well with the client. And whenever you are handcuffed by a contract, by the terms of a contract, and when you're in competition with so many other competitors, it's very difficult to stand your ground and do what you know is right and best for you and your employees. It makes it tough. This past week, a security officer was found murdered at his home in Philadelphia. Police were called to some type of suspicious activity. When officers arrived, they found a bullet hole in the front window of the home. They made access by breaking through the door and found a security officer dead. He had been shot to death. He was in his full security uniform in the 900 block of North 68th Street in the Overbrook section of the city. Police said there was evidence of multiple other rounds that had gone through the building and into the living room wall. He was found with a gunshot wound to his face and pronounced dead at the scene. Police not yet identifying him, but said the 48-year-old may have been dead for several days. They're not saying exactly who called or for what reason, other than what they found once they were able to gain access into the home. The security officer, according to detectives, may have been targeted, and it does look that way from all information and evidence found at the scene. They say someone may have followed him home, or it may have been a drive-by shooting type situation. It looks like the security officer was just arriving at home when he was gunned down. Police do not have any suspects, but they are looking at video and interviewing others in the neighborhood, and they are confident that they will crack this case. A New Orleans security officer murdered, found in the vehicle dead after police found the vehicle with the passenger door open. They went to investigate. The uniformed security officer was on duty at a business close by, and somehow he wound up a few blocks away dead. Police are still investigating. Another security officer is in critical condition after he was found shot in Memphis, Tennessee. And in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a security officer who caught a person stealing beer had to use deadly force this weekend and killed the man who had pulled a gun on him. Police are not identifying the security officer, and he has asked for an attorney so he cannot be questioned anymore. I'm not sure why he would do that, because it looks like a very legitimate legal shooting. He stopped the shoplifter. The shoplifter pulled a gun. The security officer was forced to defend himself and use lethal force, which was all legal. And it really kind of baffles me why he would ask for, an attorney in this situation.
We've added a brand new segment to the Private Officer Beat Radio starting this week, at least once a month, maybe every few weeks. We'll bring you some legislative news and bills and lawsuits and information, legal information. We do share a lot of this on the radio program on the legal side, which I hope that you did listen to our episode yesterday. On the legal side, we talked about the law and about when you can stop to identify someone, and states that have stop and identify laws and how they do or may affect private security duties as well. But today we want to talk about firearms and some of the legislative actions being taken across the country. There's one bill that has some people really up in arms. It's being called the Old West. This proposed Tennessee bill, it's actually more than proposed, it's already been introduced, would classify some gun owners as law enforcement, and some in law enforcement say that this could jeopardize the safety of others, including law enforcement. The Tennessee bill seeks to expand gun rights, and it's really drawing a lot of concern and criticism and confusion among police and others. According to WREG in Memphis, the bill would expand the state's definition of law enforcement officer to include non-sworn citizens who already have certain gun permits. One firearms instructor even likened the bill to a regression to the Old West. He says that the legislation would create problems for police and confuse citizens. What this bill proposes is that with certain enhanced handgun carry permits, private citizens would be allowed to take their concealed weapon into any business or any governmental facility or property that would otherwise prohibit concealed weapon carriers from entering. It would prohibit their firearms, but with this enhanced handgun carry permit, they would be considered just like law enforcement, and there would be no way that anyone could stop them from entering the property. One of the bill's sponsors, Representative Chris Hurt, he said that the bill doesn't mean ordinary gun holders will get law enforcement powers, just that the law will allow them to enter properties that won't, restrict law enforcement. They'll have extra protection with their firearms. The intent of HB 2554 is to reduce restrictions on enhanced gun carry permits. It does not intend to mean that any person with that enhanced permit would be viewed as a law enforcement officer, only that the language of the bill would allow them access to properties where they would otherwise be prohibited, even with a CCW. And what's really confusing, I guess you would say, is that in Tennessee they just went to what's called constitutional carry, which means that you could carry a firearm concealed without a permit. Just down the road, just a few miles really from Tennessee in Alabama, a law there is quickly passing through the process that would abolish
all concealed carry weapons, and it would go to a constitutional model as well. A constitutional model basically says that as long as you have the legal right to carry a firearm, as long as you're not a felon, as long as you're not a wanted fugitive, and you have the right, then you could carry a concealed weapon without a concealed permit. A number of states have already gone to this model. There's no evidence that it's increased crime. In fact, several states have reported that it decreased crime because more people were lawfully carrying their firearm. I'm going to play this media soundbite from two different sides to the story, and we'll see what you think, and we'll come right back here on the Private Officer Beat Radio. We've added a brand new segment.
Opposition to a proposed bill in Alabama has gained traction. It's House Bill 44, which would allow a person to carry a concealed weapon, but without a permit. Kadisha Dees breaks down the bill and why people are against it with this Verify segment.
Calls against the proposed bill to allow permitless concealed carry weapons are growing. Law enforcement even joined in on that call. Today, the Alabama Sheriff's Association, law enforcement, and other organizations were at the Alabama State House to share their concerns about safety if this bill does go through. One Alabama sheriff said, quote, "If these laws were to pass and allow for permitless carry in the state of Alabama, it would make just a little bit tougher for us to do our jobs every day," end quote. They also said this proposed legislation will allow, quote, "dangerous criminals to avoid background checks or other security checks and carry weapons into K-12 school athletic events." So, would this bill allow anyone to carry a pistol? Let's verify. Here are our sources: Republican State House Representative Andrew Sorrell of Muscle Shoals and Alabama legislature. Here's what we know so far about this proposed bill. Republican State House Representative Andrew Sorrell presented House Bill 44 on the first day of the legislative session last month. This bill would repeal certain restrictions on the carrying or possession of a firearm on certain property or in a motor vehicle by persons with or without a concealed pistol permit. This bill would revise certain restrictions on the carrying or possession of firearms at certain locations. The bill would also eliminate the need for a person to obtain a concealed carry permit in order to carry a pistol. So we can verify that, yes, you could carry a gun without a permit if this bill is passed. The bill would eliminate the requirement for a person to obtain a concealed carry permit in order to carry a pistol on certain property or in a motor vehicle. With this Verify, I'm Kanisha Dees, Fox 54 News.
Well, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for law enforcement out there. We're disappointed in the outcome today, but we know that's the process. We certainly understand that. We respect that. However, we are still opposed to this legislation. It puts our men and women in law enforcement in our communities in a position that is less safe, and I think that we have outlined that very effectively to our representatives and to the public in general. That is still our position, always will be our position. At this point, of course, the bill goes to the floor at some point, and at that point, we intend to keep working to do what we can to keep this bill from ultimately passing. And it's about the safety of the public. It's about the safety of the men and women in our agencies that are out there trying to protect the public. And our position is that anything that lessens our ability to effectively protect our communities, then naturally we're not going to be in favor of it.
Bills introduced in the Tennessee State Legislature this month are raising a lot of concern.
If passed, they would allow people to carry guns in spaces designated only for law enforcement. WRG's Jordan James breaks down the proposals.
Right now, several bills are moving through the Tennessee legislature. Among the two that are drawing a lot of attention are House Bill 2554 and Senate Bill 253.
It would just create unnecessary confusion, unnecessary chaos, and, no good intention.
SB 253 would allow a person with an enhanced handgun carry permit to act as a member of law enforcement, which means they could carry their weapon inside of establishments that prohibit guns. It's concerning to Shelby County District Attorney Amy Wyrick.
Giving those same citizens the power and authority that specially trained law enforcement officers have doesn't sound like sound policy.
Representative Chris Hurt is the lead sponsor of the bill and says the intent is to reduce restrictions on enhanced gun carry permit holders. It's legislation that the Tennessee Firearms Association says they support.
We think it's good legislation. I think if people understood, all we're saying is off-duty officers are not a super citizen. They're just a citizen like everybody else.
In a statement to WREG, Representative Hurt admits there's been a lot of confusion about the bill and says they will work to clarify the language. In Memphis, Jordan James, WREG, News Channel 3.
All right, so those are two sides to the story, two different states, not too far away from each other. They actually border each other, Tennessee and Alabama. Let us know what you think about this extended authority to conceal weapons permit holders in Tennessee, or the efforts by state legislators to do away with concealed weapons permits altogether. Contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Would love for you to chime in on this. Go to our social media at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com to read more. Or if you want to voice your opinion, go to facebook.com/Private Officer International or twitter.com/Private Officer. Love to hear what you have to say about this, and of course the other topics that we've been discussing today so far, including officer injuries, officer deaths, and the increase in violence.
Who knows what a child will grow up to be? It's one of the coolest things about kids. The unknown, the potential, the chance to do or become whatever they can imagine. But what if something happens during childhood that stops them from reaching that potential? Did you know that preventable injuries are the #1 killer of children in the United States? And around the world, one child dies from a preventable injury every 30 seconds. But the important thing to remember about preventable injuries is that they're preventable. We can do something to stop them. Things to make sure kids get the chance to be creative and play. The chance to take chances and explore. The chance to fall down and get back up. Help us give your kids, and every kid, the chance to grow up, reach their potential, and become whatever they can imagine. Learn how at safekids.org.
Each day, those that protect and service in law enforcement put their lives on the line. These law enforcement officers often work long and irregular hours in tough and dangerous conditions, run a high risk of being attacked, wounded, or even killed by the very criminals that prey on us. Every year, hundreds of law enforcement officers are killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. Blue Alert is a system that provides the means to speed the apprehension of violent criminals who kill or seriously injure local, state, or federal law enforcement officers. Find out how you can truly help those who help. That's bluealert.us.
You know, there's still time to participate in 2 different contests that we have currently happening at Private Officer International. The first one, of course, is you can own your own patrol service. We have been advertising this for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's almost at the point where you're going to have to make a decision. Should I, or am I just going to sit back like so many people and say, I'm not going to win, so, why even bother? We have not one but two different patrol opportunities, to first place and second place. We're going to award patrol service where you live. All that you have to do is follow the contest rules. Everything will happen in your hometown. We're not going to make you fly to New England or California or Florida. Nope. Everything will happen right there where you live, and one person will win a patrol service in their area, and a second person will also win a patrol service in their area. One will have lifetime opportunities to expand, and the other one will as well. We have a lot of different things happening. Contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. The other contest that we have is that you can enter a drawing or design an ad for We're the Good Guys. And again, we sent out information about 2 weeks on this. If you'd like to get more information, contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Again, there'll be a first place and a second place winner. One person will win $1,000 of armor tuition courses free, plus $250 of merchandise, and second place will win $500 of training and $100 of merchandise. It's really both excellent opportunities. Contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com if you need more information. See, we always have a lot of things happening at POI, and we just love for you to get involved. And you can be on a committee, you can enter a contest, you can even be interviewed on the radio show. Contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Well, we do have a lot of breaking news. A couple of serious issues have occurred this past week, and it seems like more and more violence is just taking over the contract security business. So coming out of the newsroom this past week, and over the weekend, like I said, it's been pretty violent again. Both security officers have both been killed, and security officers have killed others. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this weekend, a man who was thrown out of a nightclub grabbed a gun, fired that gun at a club security officer, and then when the security officer fired back, the man was killed. The 28-year-old man and two others were harassing customers, according to the police report, caused a disturbance inside the 7-Star Lounge in Philadelphia, and when security escorted them out of the building, one of the men went and got a firearm from his vehicle and then began shooting at one of the security officers. According to a police inspector, the security officer fired back. He was licensed to carry the firearm. Police say that the man subsequently died of his injuries and that the shooting is still under investigation. Though if everything goes, according to most investigations, this security officer should not have any problem at all with the law, because it's evident that it was self-defense. He was defending himself. Two Charlotte, North Carolina security officers who worked for Novant Health, a very large hospital system in Charlotte, North Carolina, have been arrested and charged with felony assault and causing bodily injury to a patient. Police say that they inflicted serious bodily injury on a patient after the patient caused a disturbance. The two security officers were later arrested by Charlotte Mecklenburg police. According to the hospital, this occurred on the behavioral health unit. No other information right now is available, but police do say that more charges is possible. The Chicago Transit Authority says that the use of private security officers on the red and blue lines there are going to expand because crimes continue to rise and that they need more security staffing, and so they're bringing in more unarmed uniformed security officers. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. In Las Vegas, a Las Vegas police officer that was captured by casino security officers at the Rio Casino and Resort last week after a robbery now have charged this police officer with a total of 3 casino robberies, 3 different casino robberies along the Strip. This was a off-duty police officer using his department-issued handgun. In College Park, Georgia, a serious question is looming on the late-night eviction at a Super 8 motel by security guards. Not the manager, not police, but a group of security guards going door to door evicting people out of the hotel because the hotel did not have the correct license to operate, and authorities say that it was a violation of the code enforcement department had already issued warnings and that they had violated those warnings, and security was tasked with the job of evicting those still living on the property. Transylvania University is a private small college in Lexington, Kentucky. One of their police officers has been charged with rape. Police say Dustin Watkins, 31, faces a charge of rape. It does not involve a student, according to the news, but police are investigating him further to see if he's involved in any other issues. NYU University said that they are also increasing campus safety officers after several students have been assaulted and a string of violent attacks has occurred on their campus and around their campus. Again, these officers, I believe, are not armed, but their presence may or may not be effective. 3 children were shot at the Whitehaven Library. Security officers there responded in Memphis, Tennessee, to the shooting inside the Whitehaven Library. 3 young children were shot by a suspect in an argument, who was in an argument with another person who was using the library. A man has been charged with attempted kidnapping at the Tufts Medical Center in Boston. Evidently, there was a security bridge. He got back behind where the newborns were and was able to attempt to steal one. He was apprehended and has been arrested. 2 Chicago police officers were ambushed while they were picking up food in the late night hours. Police said around 3:30 a.m. they were at the original Maxwell Street hot dog stand. When they were in line waiting for their food, a man in front of them dropped a handgun, reached down and picked it up and began shooting at the officers. One officer was shot. In New York Public Library, security officers captured a man wanted for 7 counts of aggravated assault and also was wanted for hate crimes. Security recognized the man when he came in to the library. They say that the security officers stayed with them, notified NYPD, and then captured him as he went into a men's room. A family is suing SeaWorld after they alleged that security did nothing to stop an assault against their family while they were visiting. They say that the family, several members, were injured. Security stood by and did little to nothing. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another story coming out this past week, a Temple University family has decided to hire a private security company to not only protect their child, who is a student at school, but to protect the school neighborhood. J&S Protection Service has been hired to patrol on foot and in cars until the child graduates later this year. Crime in that area has gone up substantially, especially violent crime. A North Charleston armed security officer was shot at an apartment. This happened in North Charleston, South Carolina on Park Circle. Police say that the gunman shot a security officer who also was armed. Anyone who has any information is to call North Charleston Police. No arrests have been made in this situation. A security officer was shot and killed in just outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. This happened at a nightclub over the weekend. Police say a disturbance involving a group of men spilled out into the parking lot. The security officer went to break up the fight and get them off the property when he was shot and killed. Also happening, this is in Canada, a young female security officer there was murdered. You don't hear, many stories about security personnel being murdered or attacked, but a young lady was killed at a business there. Murder suspect is still on the loose. A TSA officer, now a former officer, has been charged with smuggling meth. He said that he got tempted when he was contacted to transport meth between terminals. Michael Williams, 39, of Hawthorne, California, is charged with attempting to distribute meth, and the investigation is ongoing. A JetBlue pilot was arrested after he was found to be intoxicated when he got onto the plane. The pilot, James Clifton, 52, was taken into custody. He registered a .17. According to authorities, they had several complaints from people within the terminal, and they went to investigate and found that he indeed was intoxicated. A teen has been charged with the murder of a DeKalb County, Georgia security officer that occurred at a car dealership near the mall. Police say that 5 suspects entered the property. One of them was involved in the killing of the 24-year-old security officer. Henry Ashley was working at the Courtesy Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership in the 8400 block of Mall Parkway on February 19th. Investigators believe that he encountered the 5 suspects seen in the surveillance video, and while investigating their suspicious activity, was shot and killed on the property. If you want to see our breaking news every single day, all that you have to do is go to our website at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. A whistleblower has come forward in Atlanta, Georgia, saying that the security company Garda World defrauded the federal government. They falsified many training records and then sent the security personnel abroad to be part of executive protection and security teams. A witness came forward providing evidence. The Canadian-based security firm operates in 35 countries, including the U.S., France, Iraq, and Liberia. They have roughly about 1,000 employees currently in Afghanistan and throughout the region. According to the former employee, half of the security training that they were supposed to do, they never did, and they falsified times, dates, and training. Remember, Private Officer International, if you want to be part of the conversation, all that you have to do is go to facebook.com/Private Officer International and on Twitter /Private Officer. A lot of breaking news, a lot of things happening. Like I said, this is really becoming a very violent year, just like last year was. I hope and I pray that employers and clients will wake up and realize that, violence is everywhere, but people in uniform are really bearing the brunt of it. And here's another example. St. Paul, Minnesota, a 40-year-old Minneapolis man was drunk. He was told to leave the downtown St. Paul Intercontinental Hotel, but he went on to assault the security worker, the security officer, and then grabbed a machete from a back room someplace and assaulted the security officer again. Daniel Kurt Bernier has been charged with 5th-degree assault, 1 count of felony theft, felony threat to violence after the incident Saturday at the Intercontinental Hotel on Kellogg Boulevard in St. Paul, Minnesota. An armed security officer was severely injured. Highland Park, Michigan. The armed security officer at the Highland Park supermarket was assaulted. His firearm was wrestled from him, and he was injured and had to be transported to the hospital after an incident while on duty at the supermarket. According to eyewitness, there was some type of confrontation. The man knocked the security officer to the ground. He then took his gun, kicked and punched and sped on him before fleeing. Police did eventually apprehend the suspect who's in custody, but they did not release his name. A security officer was killed at a Roseville club in Michigan. Police said 2 people were shot along with a security officer at the Roseville Tavern. This is called Dooley's Tavern in Roseville, Michigan, the same place where they had a murder last year. According to law enforcement, there was an incident inside of the tavern. Security confronted the man, and the man pulled a gun and shot him multiple times. Another woman was also shot, but she is expected to survive. A security officer was also carjacked at another grocery store. Police say that the security officer was sitting in his Toyota in the parking lot when a man came up and at gunpoint took his vehicle. In San Francisco, California last week, an unarmed security officer was shot. Police said that the man was on duty near the Asian Art Museum when a person came up and tried to rob him. Eventually, the security officer was shot. Police are still investigating. And in Alabama, a security officer here in this state also injured and is in critical condition during a violent fight outside of a nightclub. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, and we're coming right back with a lot more. Remember, always, 24/7, you can send news to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods. If you need to also recognize someone with an award, also send that information to helpdesk@privateofficer.com.
Human trafficking is slavery.
And it happens all over America.
Any child, any woman, any man could potentially become a victim of human trafficking.
I am a victim of labor trafficking.
I was a victim of child sex trafficking, but now I own my body.
Human trafficking is any kind of forced labor.
It can happen to anybody.
I am a mother.
I am an author.
I am a son.
I'm an advocate.
I am an educator.
I'm a sister.
I am a brother.
I'm so much more than what happened to me.
I am strong.
I am brave.
I am outspoken.
I am compassionate.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor of human trafficking.
When I was a gang leader, we probably did business together because when people like you buy knockoffs on the street, often the money goes to gangs, and gangs use this easy money for other activities. In other words, they're getting a lot of bang for their buck.
Counterfeits hurt, but you have the power to stop them. Go to www.ncpc.org/getreal. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice.
Remember that Blue Ram Media will be releasing a introduction to our first docuseries original production called Missing in Uniform coming up in the next month or so. Be looking for that. Of course, you want to go to privateofficer.org today and sign up for all of our breaking news, officer down reports, and training opportunities coming up. And be sure to join the conversation at facebook.com/Private Officer International and on Twitter at twitter.com/Private Officer. Be sure to read our daily news blog at Private Officer Breaking News, southblogspot.com. That's going to do it for today's show. We're glad that you've been with us, and we hope that you join us each and every Monday. And, of course, be sure to listen to On the Legal Side and the LP Zone, where everything is all about loss prevention. Until the next time, folks, be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.